Running out of computer power.
All right, looks like we are live, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Does it have any disclosure of pecuniary interest? None. We'll move to the first motion on minutes. I'll ask the motion.
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Fair, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that the minutes of the special meeting of Council dated Tuesday, May the 19th, and the regular planning meeting of Council dated Monday, May the 25th, 2020, be adopted.
If not, I'll ask Diane to call the vote.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Roberts? Councillor Roberts?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes.
The motion passes.
We can hear you. To correspondence for action. So we have a motion on the emergency food boxes. I'm going to ask Diane to read the motion.
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that Council has no objections to a request by Grace McDonough, Port Stanley Food Bank, for use of the Yarmouth Centre Station and Union Station for distribution of emergency food boxes on Wednesday, June the 10th, 2020.
Something happened to Dennis that said he'd left the meeting, but he's still on my screen. Does anyone have any discussion on the food boxes? I think it's a wonderful thing that they're doing. I know they have them at Plains and the Quaker Meeting as well. So I think it's just great that they're trying to supply this food to anyone who would like it. If not, I'll go ahead.
No, I agree, Mayor Martin. It's great idea and wonderful that they're able to do this in our area. And I guess I would assume that it was already okay with the chief before it came to us.
I said, I'm sure he checked before, or she checked before she bought it. Ask Diane to vote then.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz?
Yes. Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Roberts?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes. And we do express our sincere thanks they're doing. We very appreciate it. And the next one, the shared service review. Diane, read the motion, please.
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that Council approve participation in the Service Delivery Review Project as a shared service opportunity with the Township of Malahide, and that Council understands that the Township of Malahide is seeking no financial contribution as the review is being funded through a provincial grant, and for Council agrees that Central Elgin staff will participate in discussions with the consultants in order to provide input towards the review as a potential shared service partner.
Question or concern?
Bill Fair.
Go ahead, Bill.
I'm just wondering, I didn't see any indication of a time involved. Is that something that would require a lot of staff time, or is it quite workable?
Would you like to respond to that?
Madam Mayor, in response to Councillor Fair, I think it is workable. I did have a meeting 3-4 weeks ago now with Ms. Casavecchia Summers and the consultant just to discuss the project that resulted in the letter that's come before council. So I think it is workable. Malahide has expressed an interest of maybe talking to Central Elgin about garbage collection services as one shared service. They're interested in what we've done. So there may be others that are identified. It is a very short time frame. September of 2020 is still the current time frame for the project to complete. But we're certainly interested in talking to Malahide about what opportunities may exist.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll ask Diane to call the vote.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz, Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Roberts,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution passes.
Thank you. We have one item for information on Essential Workers Day. Anyone wish to speak to that? We have to that. I think I'll just let you speak to that if anyone wants to. I think I'll just let you speak to that if anyone wants to, and then we'll read the motion. Hearing no one, my big concern with it, it's not that I don't think we should have Essential Workers Day.
Madam Mayor, sorry.
I just think March the 17th seems like an odd day because that's St. Patrick's Day. Go ahead,
Madam Mayor?
Fiona.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time understanding. I'm getting a real echo back on my side here, and so it's making it very difficult to understand what you're saying. Sorry.
Dawn, I need Dawn to mute.
Oh, okay, sorry. Easy fix.
There. Now
Could you say that again? I couldn't.
without the echo.
Yes. I'm sorry, can I ask you to repeat all that again so I get it? I didn't get it all the first time, sorry.
Okay, my feeling was I'm quite happy to have an Essential Workers Day set aside. The problem is, I think March the 17th being St. Patrick's Day as well makes it very a difficult day. I know they wanted to do it that day because that was when Ontario declared the state of emergency, but I would think we could choose a different day, a different date. That would be my feeling. Does anyone else have any comments? Dennis? Oh, Dennis has left the meeting again. Poor Dennis. He's having a rough go.
Fiona. Actually, I was, and of course I was wanting to support this. I hadn't even thought of March 17th being St. Patrick's Day. I don't know how I forgot that. I don't know. It's hard to say. I understand what you're saying about it being on the same day, but I get the significance of the Essential Workers Day being that day that sort of started it all. So I'm still willing to support it, whether it's the March 17th or not.
Other comments before we determine what the motion will be? Whether we
Fair.
receive and file or whether we want to do something with Mr. Fair. Go ahead.
I was just thinking of receiving and filing. I didn't know if we really had to do anything. That's what was my thought, but I agree we should have a special day, but I would be quite willing to receive it as information.
Madam Mayor?
Yes. Go ahead, Fiona.
I would like to support it and pull it forward if somebody else is willing to second it. It's just, I would like to see the support for this. I think it's great to recognize these people who, which includes some of our staff actually, by the way, too, that, you know, went out on the front lines when the rest of us were tucked away safely in our homes. I think the other thing about recognizing this and kind of on an annual basis is it doesn't let us forget what we went through. so that we hopefully don't allow ourselves to go through something like this again. Keep this at the forefront. So I would like to support it if somebody else is willing to second it.
Madam Mayor,
Go ahead, Tom.
I'd be happy to second it.
Thank you. So the motion Diane's going to put is that we support this. And Fiona's going to move and Tom second. Any other comments anyone would like to make before we vote?
Bill Fair?
Go ahead.
I just want to note that this is all of the essential services, and I'm happy to note that they've got the financial people in there, so accountants were declared essential services also, but it is a very, very broad one, which is nice, recognizing everybody, so you don't have to worry about some of the problems that some people were omitted.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, it's Colleen.
Go ahead, Colleen.
Yeah, so I'm willing to support it as well. I do think it would be an issue if it was the same day as St. Patrick's Day. They wouldn't get all of the credit that they were due. And I did notice that other municipalities have been doing a lot of different things. And one of them, for example, was in Thunder Bay. They actually created a neighbor day. So we could come up with something on our own as well if we wanted to. I don't really know what the celebration is per se for either one of these, but if it's just a day to remember someone you know or someone that helped you out during COVID, that's really fine too.
Colleen, any other comments?
Madam Mayor,
You wish to speak? Go ahead.
I absolutely think it's a great idea. I mean, without our essential workers, we wouldn't have come through this the way we have. I would like to see on a different day because I don't want it to be overshadowed by St. Patrick's Day, which stands for a whole other topic. I understand the reason behind the date, but it would be nice to have its own date.
Perhaps we can suggest this to the City of Brantford, who have initiated this, that we're in full support, but we would appreciate a different day just because of the conflict with St. Patrick's Day.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I would move that we would we definitely want to support it, but we would like to see it have its own day.
Thank you. Tom, are you willing to agree to that change?
Oh, very happy with the amendment.
Thank you. Okay, I'll ask Diane to read the motion and then we will. Writing the motion now. Councillor Krebs.
Yes, it is. I'm having technical difficulties at this end. Just what I'd like to say is, in the past, Central Oregon hasn't always endorsed special days like this type of resolution, and it's going to be a thing where we're going to start getting asked a lot more by different groups for Central Oregon to support. I fully support the idea, the principle behind it, but I think it's something that we should watch on how many different things that we do support in the future. It's something that we really have to watch. Yes, thank you.
I was thinking the same thing, Councillor Krebs. Dennis, if you're having a lot of problems, sometimes just getting rid of the video demands far less bandwidth, so that you might be able to do it that way if you can't, if you keep cutting in and.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, I've prepared a motion for council's consideration, and they can certainly direct me if they wish changes. The motion reads, moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that correspondence received from the City of Brantford seeking support for an Essential Workers Day be endorsed, and further that council request that the City of Brantford choose an alternate day other than March 17th, since that is St. Patrick's Day.
Comments? If not, I'll ask Diane to call the vote.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks, Councillor Roberts,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution passes.
We're now moving to Director of Infrastructure and Community Services report on the Earth charging stations. Would you read the motion, Diane?
The motion is, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Councillor Fair, that report ICS 1220 Earth charging stations be received as information.
Any comments, questions? I was
Madam Mayor, it's Colleen.
moving forward. Go ahead, Councillor Roberts.
Sorry. Actually, the only thing, just from looking at the diagram, it's 2 spots in each of those areas then, like 2 at Beaumont Arena, 2 at the information booth, and then the other 2 spots. Is it, I wasn't actually sure what was an actual parking spot for the vehicles to sit and charge and what was equipment.
Mr. Brooke, would you like to respond?
Yes. Each location will have 2 parking spots. So each charging unit has 2 connectors, which will supply 2 parking spots.
Okay.
So
Okay.
there's 3 actual units that would be going in the 3 locations, but two spots in each.
But 2 spots in each. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Councillor Rowe to speak.
Yes, I did. I just had a question on the locations at the tourist center in Port Stanley. They're right at the front, so it might be limited based on the proximity to some of the services, perhaps. But I just wondered if there was another couple of locations, maybe closer to the tourist office building itself, for those spots, or some spots that are maybe shorter, because a lot of the spots that are indicated along the road there are quite large, I guess. And so if all of the electric cars are somewhat smaller than a pickup truck or an SUV or something, I just wondered if there would be some wasted space.
Brooks?
Sure. So Earth selected these spots based on the ease of installation. They need to make a business case in order to make these charging stations effective. So if they can find a couple spots, such as the location here at the visitor center, right beside the hydro pole, they can run a drop service right down to this charging station and supply the unit with power, and that's why that spot was chosen.
Councillor Fair.
Go ahead, Councillor Fair.
Through the mayor to Jeff, I realize that we don't have Earth in Ward 4. Are there any other programs that you're aware of that we could maybe get something like that in Ward 4?
Jeff.
As of right now, no. The latest round stream 2 was for light fleet vehicles as well as places of work. That was the stream 2 of the ZVIP funding. There will be another 2 rounds of it, I believe, and there may be possibly something available which may qualify for funding for something in Lyndhurst. We'll have to see what Natural Resources Canada comes out with in the next round of funding.
Brooks, what level charging stations are these? Are these the very slow, very low charging ones, or medium, or the quick charge?
These are level 2s. So I believe it's typically 2 to 3 hours to get a full charge from what I understand on these units.
Okay, normally it depends on how low you are, but they're normally about 8 hours, the level 2. But that's for a full charge. Providing you didn't have any charge in to start with. So yeah, I would say the level 2 is a good idea. Questions or comments?
Mayor Martin?
Just receiving this as information. Go ahead, Colleen.
Yeah, I would just kind of press Earth about the locations that I was asking about earlier, because again, I don't know whether that it's the line, if it's parallel to Harlow Road along that stretch, then those two spots could either be where they've indicated, or they could be actually further south, I guess. And I just get concerned if they have these charging stations sort of right there at the entrance, and that's sort of where people start to park. They're probably going to be more empty than full on a regular basis, I would think, at least now, because there aren't that many electric cars around that I'm aware of. But I just think it's kind of a prime parking location, and if there was some way to kind of not to put it in a corner, I'm not suggesting that, but to kind of just get it away from that sort of main entrance. If it's not possible, it's not possible, but I was just asking just to ask to confirm with Earth again.
Mr. Brooks?
I can go back to Earth and discuss that with them. Is there a more desirable location for council to have the two spots?
Are there any other hydro poles in that area?
I don't believe so. I don't believe there's any other hydro poles that are within that vicinity where they wouldn't have to trench or possibly even do a directional drill to get that service over to, because of we've got finished asphalt in the parking lot there.
Well, I mean, if that's the restriction, then I totally understand. But it's as long as they've kind of just validated that, I'd appreciate it. Okay. Otherwise, I think it's a great idea all around.
Thank you. Any other comments before we call the vote? If not, I'll ask Diane to call the vote.
Councillor Cook? Yes. Councillor Kravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks? Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Roberts?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe? Yes. And Mayor Martin? Yes. Resolution carries.
Thank you. We now move to Director of Fire Rescue Service and Fire Chief on the 3 months, March, April, and May. I'm going to ask Diane to read the motion.
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Kravitz, seconded by Councillor Roberts, that report FSO 720, monthly alarm activities report for March of 2020, be received as information.
Seeing none, I'll Diane.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Kravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks? Deputy Mayor Marks? Yes. Councillor Roberts?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin?
Yes.
The resolution carries.
The next resolution report.
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Cook, seconded by Councillor Fair, that report FSO 820 monthly alarm activities report for April of 2020 be received as information.
Chief McDonough, time you want to speak, just let me know. No questions, I'll ask Diane to call the vote.
Councillor Cook? Councillor Kravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Roberts?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Would you read the resolution?
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Councillor Cook. Report FSO 920, monthly alarm activities report for May of 2020 be received as information.
This whole year, which is not surprising with the COVID, but a lot of people probably are a little hesitant to call unless they absolutely need it. But it seems to be picking up. Any questions or comments? If not, I'll ask Diane to call the vote.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Roberts,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
Mayor Martin. Resolution carries.
We're now moving to the Director of Asset Management and Development Services, the application for an exemption to the noise bylaw from the gun club. This is something we do every year, and they were concerned this year. They didn't know whether to apply or not because they don't even know whether they can hold these events yet. But I told them they should apply for the exemption, hoping, I mean, that way, if they do get to hold the events, they've got their exemption in place. So does anyone, I guess I'll have Diane read the motion first.
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Kravitz, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that report AMDI 1620, application for exemption to the noise bylaw 212 as amended be received as information, and that council grant an exemption to bylaw 212 being a bylaw to control noise in the municipality of Central Elgin as amended to allow the St. Thomas Gun Club to hold their summer trap shooting events commencing at 9 a.m. on the following dates: July 19th, August 3rd, and September the 7th of 2020, with COVID-19 guidelines being practiced.
Questions or comments? Hearing none, I'll ask Diane to call the vote.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Roberts,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin. The resolution carries.
We move to the Site Plan Control Committee on 145 St. George Street. Would you read the motion, please, Diane?
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Rowe, seconded by Councillor Fair, that Site Plan Control Committee report respecting Free Reformed Church 145 St. George Street be approved with noted conditions.
Questions? Hearing none, I'll ask Diane to call the vote.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks, Councillor Robert,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution carries.
Now move to bylaws, and we do have a fair number of them. So Diane will read the initial motion on them to take them together.
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Roberts, seconded by Deputy Mayor Marks, that bylaws 2483, 2484, 2485, 2486, 2487, 2488, 2489, and 2490 be taken collectively.
Is there anyone have any concerns about taking them collectively? If not, then would you call the
Bill
vote,
Fair?
Diane?
Whoops, Bill Fair.
Go ahead, Bill.
I just wonder if it could be noted. I know I had a question, and I know Ramona answered the question, but could we just have a little bit more clarification on the property tax rates, what it's really the average going up, so that our taxpayers know the real rate? It was a little hard to follow it with just the cold numbers.
Ramona, could you speak to that, please?
average rate of increase is just under 0.5%. And the difference between the rate and the total levy being a little less on the residential side is related to the differential between the tax classes when you do a weighted average between commercial taxes and industrial taxes. So that's why, even though the total tax levy is, you'll see on one page it's going down by 1.4%, but really by the time you spread it over the weighted average of property taxes, the residential rate is going up by just under 0.5%. Is that clear or more confusing?
Clear to
That's
me.
fine. That's fine for me. I just, I noticed that there was a publication in the newspaper in Elmer saying 2%, and I thought that was incorrect.
That may have been the original draft of the budget that was put forth the first time before it was amended, and we found some changes.
Thank you. Maybe we should make sure that hopefully the Elmer Express are listening to our meeting tonight, live streamed, and we'll report on that. Any other questions before we vote to take them together? If not, I'll ask Diane to call the vote.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Roberts,
Yes.
and Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution passes.
Go ahead, the next resolution.
Motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Cook, that bylaws 2483, 2484, 2485, 2486, 2487, 2488, 2489, and 2490 be read a first and a second time.
Any questions? If not, I'll ask Diane to take the vote.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair, Councillor Fair,
Yes. Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Roberts,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
The resolution passes.
Would you read the final motion on the bylaws, please?
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Kravitz, seconded by Councillor Roberts, that bylaws 2483, 2484, 2485, 2486, 2487, 2488, 2489, and 2490 be read a third time and finally passed.
Questions? If not, I'll ask Diane to call the vote.
Councillor Cook,
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz,
Yes.
Councillor Fair,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks,
Yes.
Councillor Roberts,
Yes.
Councillor Rowe,
Yes.
and Mayor Martin. The resolution carries.
Thank you. We'll now have a resolution concerning summer meeting dates. Every year, we usually just hold one meeting in July and one in August. And so Diane's going to read the resolution that has been prepared. And then if you have any discussion or questions, you ask.
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Deputy Mayor Marks, seconded by Councillor Fair, that Council approve the 2020 summer session council meeting schedule as follows. Monday, July the 20th, 2020 at 1 p.m. and Monday, August the 24th, 2020 at 1 p.m.
Questions or comments?
Bill Fair.
Go ahead, Bill.
These meetings are set for, I'm fine with that. I was just thinking we're always open to special meetings given the situation that's happening or at any other point. So it would still be open for special meetings as required, correct?
Correct.
Mayor Martin, it's Colleen.
Pauline?
Yeah, just sort of along those same lines, I guess. If council has the responsibility to determine the fate of the beach opening at some point, I don't know whether that would be ready to decide upon for the next June meeting or sometime later. But if we do have to have a special meeting just for the beach opening, that's totally fine. But I just wondered what others' thoughts were about whether it needs to have council approval or not, meaning to sort of make a motion to have staff make that decision when the beach was open, given the announcements that came out today, where they actually officially, the province actually officially said beaches could open.
I'm actually going to give a report on, that's been the main topic of discussion in our emergency control group for probably well over a week now. And as you probably saw by the website, we were originally hoping for the 15th, but I'm going to let Dawn, we had a task force that met today. And I'm going to let him bring you up to date when we get to the new business part. Any other questions on the summer meeting dates? There'll be our 2 official regular meetings. We can call any special meeting at any time. Diane, call the vote then, please.
Mr. Leach wanted to say something, Sally.
You go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off there.
Madam Mayor, I was just going to note for council that we are going to have one special meeting July 6th in the evening. That's a Monday, to deal with all of the outstanding planning application public meetings and committee of adjustment hearings. So I think we're in the range of between minor variance and planning around 15. Diana's, we're up to now. So we'll clear that backlog of outstanding applications. I think all council members indicated they could attend on the or participate on the 6th of July.
So there's at least one special meeting we're definitely having in the summer. Would you call the vote now then, please? Welcome, Jim.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Roberts?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
Mayor Martin?
Yes.
The resolution carries.
I'm going to ask anyone else for new business. I'm going to let Dawn bring you up to date on exactly what has been happening concerning the beach opening, because that is a major concern we have right now.
Madam Mayor, the Southwest Public Health, going back to last Wednesday, advised the municipalities that it issued a new guidance document regarding the opening and maintenance of beaches in order to deal with the COVID-19 situation, the pandemic. Along with that announcement was the suggestion that public health would create a task force involving the municipalities in the county of Elgin that do have public beaches. Basically, there's 4: West Elgin, Central Elgin, Malahide, and Bayham. And that task force would work with public health staff to implement and address the guidance document. At the last Friday meeting, the medical officer of health asked Central Elgin to coordinate that particular task force. So the task force met today, and it was good that in addition to the Elgin municipalities, public health, we also had representatives from the municipality of Lambton Shores, where Grand Bend is involved in it, and the neighboring health unit here in Perth were also involved in the discussion. So the task force went through and talked generally about communication, the importance of communication, messaging to the public, but also went through the guidance document. there were some issues with the guidance document from a practical point of view that all 4 municipalities in Elgin had, particularly the 3 eastern ones, because including Central Elgin, because of the size and nature of our beaches. West Elgin has a much smaller beach with very limited attendance from people outside of the municipality. So public health representatives took some of the concerns back, and we'll raise those with the medical officer of health. And we're looking to have one more task force meeting on Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, and then move forward. I think all the municipalities are working towards reopening the beach, but to do so in a safe fashion. That we don't want to send the message that when we reopen, it's just going to be the same as it was in 2019 and all the previous years. That social distancing remains very important. So the other thing that all of the municipalities would like to be able to do, and including Lambton Shores if possible, to try to find a common date to open the beaches so that you don't have a run on any one particular beach because it's the only one that's open. So Lambton Shores certainly sees that as well and would like to try to accommodate that. They're also working through the announcements from the Premier today, because Lambton Shores is, being in Lambton County, is one of the areas where they're not moving on to the next stage, and how that may impact maybe not perhaps the beach opening, but the relationship of the beach to the businesses in that particular area. So there's still lots of issues to work out. We're not looking to suggest to council that it would be the 15th. That's going to be too soon. But we would look to be making decisions or recommendations at least the week after that. We see merit in not trying to open for a weekend, but try to open earlier in the week in order to have sort of a soft opening, so that if there is any issues or glitches, we can address those. We did open public washrooms on the beach, at the visitor center, and at Donyek Park on Friday, and we're requisitioned, and they may be in place, portable toilets for a number of different locations throughout Central Elgin, where we normally have those portable toilets. That's really an update where we are with the beach opening. It has taken and will take considerable amount of time, but we are getting there. Councillor Rowe did raise the question of whether council is comfortable with, I would say, the control group making the decision to reopen, or whether council needs to convene to do so. As I said, at this point, the control group is working towards trying to reopen as quickly as possible, but as safely as possible, recognizing that there are some pressures from certain quarters to try to open. There's businesses and other people that would like to see the beach open.
And we'll need to know whether council are comfortable leaving the emergency control group to make the final decision as to the date. Certainly they will keep us fully informed of what the conditions will be and how it will be enforced, what signage, etc., all that, which are discussed every day in our meetings. But if the proposed date is 2 weeks from today, we will not be meeting till that evening. So that does make it, it wouldn't be possible to open that day if you feel that it should be council's final decision. So could you let me know right now whether you think it should be council's decision or the emergency control group's decision, of which Tom and I sit on?
Bill Fair. Bill Fair.
Go ahead, Bill.
I think that the decision is being reviewed very well with the emergency group. I would feel comfortable with that. If there were any extreme situations, then it could be brought back to council. But I'm comfortable with all the thought that's going into it at this point. So I would say I would be acceptable. It's acceptable as far as going ahead with the control group, making the decision and then moving ahead.
Fiona?
Go ahead, Fiona.
I would agree with Councillor Fair that I would be willing to continue with the control group. But again, if there was anything that out of the ordinary, I think it should come back to us as well.
Anyone else like to speak?
It's Colleen.
Go ahead, Colleen.
I agree with Bill, with Councillor Fair and Councillor Roberts.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Krebs, I agree with the control group taking control of the situation and keeping the council informed. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Okay. Councillor Roberts and then Councillor Cook.
Can I just ask another quick question with regards to the beach opening? I'm just kind of watching our live feed right now, and somebody has asked about that opening, and I don't know if anything has been said to the control group, but they're asking, you know, is there, like, will there be grid lines or something on the beach in order to determine areas for where people should be, or like, do they have any sort of plans for that type of thing, or does that fall on us to determine? I know I've seen on the news, I think it's in parks though, with circles being painted on the grass, but just what does that, or what would we be looking at when the beach opened, and how would we ensure that everybody was staying at a safe distance?
We looked very carefully at the Spanish model, which has ropes and posts, splitting it into squares so that people had a specific area. You can't just draw lines on the beach. You can't just draw circles on the sand like you can in a park. We had real concerns there with the beach cleaner being able to clean the beach if those posts went up. The cost, when Jeff costed it out, was going to be about $50,000 for the posts and the rope. We also, the emergency measures group, felt that it was not safe. They couldn't reach people if there was an emergency. So we are not proposing looking at that. We're looking at other measures, but the final measures haven't been decided. That's what we're looking at right now. That's what this task force is doing, and we'll be reporting back to the emergency control group once they have recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Cook, you had something you wish to say?
I was going to agree with the original information that was going on. With that.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, if I may.
Tom?
If I could, as you stated, you and I are both part of that committee, but I'd like to take a chance and just an opportunity and let everyone be dedicated and how hardworking senior staff have been. They have above and beyond, certainly have impressed me. I always knew they're hardworking, but a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of effort. And I'll tell you, this beach, to close it down when you look back at it, but with just the normal stuff, staff have really risen up and done a great job.
I would echo that as well, Tom. And I mean, even poor Mr. Perrin's been available to me on weekends when I've had a problem, or Mr. Leach, when certain things have happened. So I very much appreciate all the work that staff have been doing as well, keeping us fully informed. So I assume staff then, it's staff's direction that we can proceed as directed. Excuse me. Is there any other new business anyone wishes to bring up?
Bill Fair.
Go ahead, Bill.
On a personal note, I'd like to tell everyone that I helped move my son and his family back from Alberta, Dr. Adam Fair. So Ontario now has another general surgeon here.
That's great, Bill. You made it through and got across all the borders.
Just within Canada, within the provincial borders. We, of course, did not go into the U.S.
No, but some of the provincial borders are still closed. So I'm glad you didn't have to cross into Quebec or PEI.
Yes.
Any other new business anyone wishes to bring up?
Madam Mayor, a couple of
Go
quick.
ahead, Tom.
I had a resident down off East Road by the new development of Domus, down Larry Street in that area. Apparently there was, he said that some a construction employee was going door to wanting to go into people's houses. I guess this is for the vibration checks, but they were concerned with COVID letting them in the house, and I didn't know if staff was
Mr. Leach, are we aware of that? Lloyd, would you speak to that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Marks. That was a requirement to attend the properties on existing Hill High and Larry Street. Unfortunately, the contract inspection firm that was responsible or tasked to do the inspections was eager and energetic and got out before a notice was sent to each individual property owner. So we were not aware until this afternoon. I've since contacted the consulting engineer managing the project. He is reaching out and asking that person to stop at this point until we can get a notice out to each individual landowner clarifying what the purpose of the inspection is. It will be up to each individual landowner if they want to allow that person into the house. But they are being asked to inspect the properties just for existing building conditions. It's a building condition audit, documenting any potential cracks or things like that prior to construction starting. So if landowners don't wish to have the individual in their property, they just need to sign a form acknowledging that that the contractor is not allowed on the property or to do the inspection. So,
thank you. Tom, you had something else you wanted to bring up?
Yes, thank Mr. Parent for that. But the other one is I've had probably 3 phone calls this week and a couple of emails, and it's concerning the St. Thomas Airport and the marijuana grow operation. All the theme that they're all saying now is this smell. They're very upset. Last year, they've been smelling this skunk-like smell. They thought it was just an infestation of skunks. Now they find out that it was the hemp from last year, and they want it to be known that they're quite concerned. I walk every morning, and a couple of weeks ago, a car hit a skunk on the road. I'll tell you, it's a very rank smell. So I feel for these people. So they asked me if I bring it up again. I know we're trying to keep the city's feet to the fire. They're very dedicated people there. So I take their concerns very seriously. So that's just wanted to get the message out there.
Thank you, Tom. That is something that I was going to mention as well, because we had asked the city to meet with us and to meet with the ratepayers, and I had asked Mr. Leach to keep checking with Mr. Graves to find out when they're proposing to do that, because I did tell those people that they should file official complaints with the city on that smell, which they have done now. So I appreciate that, because that helps.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Fiona.
Can someone explain to me how this would differ from a dairy farm? Dairy farms have smell. I know my boys milked for years at them, and that smell came home with them and did not come out of their clothes. Didn't matter how many times I washed them. And they use chemicals. They grow corn, feed, hay. Chemicals are used. Water is used. And again, there is the smell. And I don't think the smell of a dairy is any different than the cannabis processing or grow op. So if they're both agriculture, how does one differ from the other? And if we look at doing this bylaw, how do we know then that the people, and I'm thinking there are dairies that have people living in the vicinity of them, how do we then tell those people that we can't do anything about the smell and the water and the chemical use around them, but we can only do it with regards to cannabis grow ops? Can someone please let me know what the difference is there?
Mr. Leach.
Madam Mayor, in response to Councillor Roberts, the regulation of dairy farms, livestock operations, manure pits, that kind of thing in relation to residential uses or other sensitive uses is regulated by the minimum distance separation. So that's formula established by the province that we have incorporated into our zoning bylaw. Currently, there's nothing in the minimum distance separation that applies to cannabis operations, whether it's a field growing or some kind of processing operation. So it's not part of minimum distance separation. There is a report coming forward to the next council meeting from the planning office, moving forward with creating an amendment to the zoning bylaw that would provide effectively a minimum distance separation from sensitive uses for various operations related to cannabis, which would include cultivation. So that report is coming forward from the planning office at the next meeting for direction from council to proceed or not to proceed. This follows a report that council received last year. That's the one particular point. And further to Councillor Martin's Mayor Martin's comments about the meeting with the city today, I'm going to say probably between Wendell Graves and myself, we each called each other about 3 times each, trying to connect with each other, and we're always just in between meetings. So we're trying to see if City Council and Central Ogden can expedite that meeting, understanding that some residents are concerned about the timing of the meeting and when the planting of the crop may be occurring, and it may have already occurred. I don't know, but that's the concern I'm understanding, and the issue I've conveyed to Mr. Graves in phone messages that we'd like to have the meeting sooner than later because the crop may be planted or is being planted.
Bill Mayor?
Yes. Go ahead, Bill.
Just a note, you might want to look at, I believe it was West Nipissing, just in the last few days was looking at a bylaw and like that, and the council voted it down. So I know they were looking at it too, and it was rejected. So they aren't, as far as I know, they're not controlling that area much. They're just saying it falls under agriculture, I believe. But I know the council did vote it down.
One concern I know has been the use of water because they irrigate. They have to irrigate these plants a lot. And I know most other groups that have to irrigate, I know that Catfish Creek and Kettle Creek offer permits to take water and have to deal with that. And I don't know with it being a well, whether that is, the case or not, but it does take a lot of water to grow the cannabis. And that is one of the concerns the neighbors have, that it may run their wells dry. We had that years ago in Yarmouth when they did the gravel pit on Fairview Ave, and it drained all the wells of all the houses around. And Yarmouth had quite a time. All the wells had to be dug deeper, etc. So it was a concern at that time. So I don't, at the moment, they're saying they're not going to be using the well at all, that they're going to truck water in, and I find that hard to believe because that takes an awful lot of trucked in water.
Fiona?
Go ahead.
So they grew a full crop of hemp last year then?
Acres.
25 acres? And I'm sorry, how many acres for this one?
You know, Mr. Leach, how many acres they're proposing to grow? It's a similar amount. I don't know.
Sorry, I didn't catch that, sorry.
He thinks it's a similar amount to last year's hemp.
Okay, so approximately the 25 acres then.
That's Mr. Leach thinks.
Okay, and did we hear any complaints with regards? I know it's they're on wells, but do we know of any issues from last year? At least
They haven't dug the wells at the airport yet.
Okay, but I'm just saying in regards to the crop that was grown last year, had we heard of any water issues in the area for the residents?
Because they didn't have a well, there wouldn't have been any water issues.
Oh, okay, yes, okay. So that was something that didn't have to be dealt with last year. This year is going to be the issue then, if the crop's in the ground and they go forward. This is where we're concerned, or we're unsure at the moment.
Yeah, and they're saying they're not going to dig the well this year, that they're going to truck the water in. But they are proposing to dig a well in the future, a deep well.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor, this is Karen.
Go ahead, Karen.
The phone calls and concerns that I've had isn't the water, but it's the smell. And just doing some research myself online, or looking at some specialists there, the issue is it's not like any kind of other material that's been grown. It kind of mimics your cigarettes, your first, second, and third degree hand smoke. You inhale it, you get high. You smell it, you can get high. It can be airborne, you can get high from that. It doesn't last long, but the effects are still there. So breathing that THC in, which of course Mother Nature determines where she wants to blow the wind, but that is the issue that I am dealing with, is that people smelling that and the possibility of them getting some kind of euphoric state, which according to some of the studies online, it can produce. So I think that's been more of a concern at this point than the water has.
Yes, you're right. It's the smell, and I'm interesting the research you've done. We definitely will be dealing with this at our next meeting. Bill, you wish to speak?
It's Tom.
Thought it was Bill. Go ahead, Tom.
I'm glad we've had this robust, and I think that that's what people, I've heard this last week. Now that the smell has been identified, it irritated them last year, but no one realized, they just all thought it was the skunks. And it's actually honestly, there was a problem last year. They just didn't identify it. I'm glad we've had the discussion. So.
Yes, and they actually have now officially formally complained to the city about the smell last year because they couldn't use their patios or outdoor areas. So we will be dealing with this. Mr. McComb, as you know, brought a report to us at a previous meeting in March, and we will be looking at passing a bylaw about minimum distance, etc., that we normally have for all other agricultural commodities like pigs and any other animal ones that create smells and refuse, etc. Any other new business? Hearing none, Diane is going to read us into closed session, but then we won't actually start in closed session until she has a chance to take us off live streaming. So there'll be a bit of a pause.
The motion reads, Madam Mayor, moved by Councillor Cook, seconded by Councillor Rowe, that Council proceed into closed session at 8:35 p.m. in order to address a matter pertaining to closed session minutes, security, property, and solicitor-client privilege.
The vote, please.
Councillor Cook?
Yes.
Councillor Kravitz?
Yes.
Councillor Fair?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Marks?
Yes.
Councillor Roberts?
Yes.
Councillor Rowe?
Yes.
And Mayor Martin? The motion carries.
Okay, so we'll just give Diane a chance to close the doors to the chambers here and to cut us off live streaming. Welcome, Mr. Gibson and Mr. McComb.